We're here with Paul Nicholson, midway through the BDO World Championships 2020. It's been a good tournament so far, hasn't it, Paul?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. There's obviously been a lot of press around this event, leading up to it and during. But, even I, with 3 Lakeside Championships under my belt, was a little bit anxious coming to a new venue, because we have to remember that, I'm a 40-year-old man, and most of my life has been watching Lakeside and doing such a thing in January. So a new experience always comes with a little bit of nervous energy. But so far, I think the standard of play has been very good, especially from Paul Hogan last night, which I think was fabulous to see. And it just goes to show that, and I feel like I'm repeating myself when I say this, that it doesn't matter how old you are, who you are, where you're from. If you're good enough, you can succeed, and Paul Hogan's just showing one for the older generation, which is great.
You say it doesn't matter how old you are. You saw Beau earlier in the week, just 15 years of age, obviously turning 16 and going to Q School in January.
Yeah.
What a performance that was, and could she really be a star of the future in the women's game?
I don't see a scenario where she isn't really. She's been hanging around world-class dart players for the last 3 or 4 years, and she's not even 16 years of age yet, which is quite frightening. But it wasn't so much the performance from Beau that impressed me, it was the composure, it was the nature of how she played. She looked comfortable, and she was able to do things in what looked like any sort of pressure situation for any player, especially on debut, we can't forget that. And she looked at ease with the whole challenge, which is kind of ominous for the rest of the field, really, when you think about how young she is. And maybe it's just a case of no mental scarring on stage yet. She's fresh, and I don't think we've seen anything close to what the sort of brand Beau is going to be. I think she's someone who's going to find out who she is in the next 5 or 6 years. But I, for one, am very much looking forward to seeing what her and some of the other young stars like Tori Kewish do in the next decade potentially.
How much does it help the young players being able to mix it with the seniors on the tour week in, week out? Obviously, Leighton Bennett playing his first World Championship, Beau, as you mentioned. They all get to play the senior players week in, week out, which must be a real test for them. Yeah,
I think the sense of normality for some of these youngsters now is very different to what it was like for when I was growing up. I'm a similar age to, say, someone like Stephen Bunting, for instance. He's a little bit younger than me, but when Stephen was 16 years old, he was mixing it with County A players. He was surrounded by world-class players like Jimmy McGovern from the Liverpool area, and Steve McNally, who was a great player, and Mickey Brooks, real characters from that area, but really good talents, and people who could teach them about what it's like on tour life. Things are different 20 years later, of course, but there's still the same thing about being around world-class players and having that normality of how do I have to perform against these guys, and what do I have to do to challenge. And for someone like Leighton, who for the last, say, 2 years since he's been in mainstream media, since winning the Cambridgeshire Open, I think he's just found that this is what he wants to do, and he's just like Beau. I don't think we've seen anywhere near the finished article yet, but I sincerely hope that he sticks with the game and doesn't take on board any of the possible distractions at his age.